Keanu Reeves stepped out of the black SUV, pulling his coat tighter against the chilly evening breeze. He wasn't dressed to impress. Just a simple leather jacket, dark jeans, and a worn-out baseball cap pulled low to hide his face. Tonight wasn't about being a celebrity. It was about finding a quiet corner to escape the chaos. The city lights flickered around him as he walked down the cobblestone street, his footsteps echoing softly. His mind was heavy with thoughts, scripts, commitments, endless responsibilities. Sometimes it felt like the whole world was watching, waiting for him to be something more than just a man. He needed a break, just a small moment where he wasn't Keanu Reeves to anyone, just a guy looking for a peaceful meal. As he wandered, he spotted a small, dimly lit restaurant tucked between a bakery and an old bookstore. It didn't scream for attention. No flashy signs or loud music, just a warm, inviting glow that seemed to promise solitude. Keanu hesitated for a moment, then pushed the door open, the faint sound of jazz floating out to greet him. Inside, the ambiance was intimate. Wooden tables scattered around, candles flickering gently on each one. A few locals chatted quietly, lost in their own worlds. Keanu slipped into a corner table near the window, grateful that no one seemed to recognize him. A waiter approached, polite and uninterested, taking his order without a second glance. Perfect. Just as Keanu settled back, letting the calm wash over him, a soft melody broke through the quiet. It wasn't part of the jazz track playing faintly in the background. This voice was different, raw, filled with an ache that wrapped around every word. He glanced up, eyes drawn to the far corner where a small platform stood. A girl, couldn't have been more than 13, stood clutching an old microphone, eyes closed, as if the world around her didn't exist. Her voice was haunting, pure and unguarded, pouring out emotions far too heavy for someone so young. It was as if she was carrying a pain she didn't know how to express, except through those lyrics. Keanu couldn't help but lean forward, his heart pounding a little faster. The restaurant had fallen silent, captivated by this unexpected performance. People paused mid-conversation, forks held motionless in the air, all eyes fixed on the girl as her song filled the space. Keanu noticed the faint tremble in her hands, the way her voice cracked on the higher notes. Yet, despite the imperfections, it was beautiful. It wasn't just singing. It was a story, one that wrapped around his thoughts and refused to let go. When the song ended, silence lingered for a moment before soft applause rippled through the room. The girl lowered the microphone, gave a timid smile, and stepped off the small stage. As she moved between tables, Keanu's gaze followed her, curiosity gnawing at him. A small donation box dangled from her hand, and she stopped by each table, offering a shy nod as she collected spare change and crumpled bills. When she reached Keanu's table, she hesitated, not recognizing him, just seeing another stranger. Her voice was quiet and polite as she spoke. "Sir, would you like to help? It's for my grandfather's surgery." Keanu looked at her, trying to process the contrast between her powerful voice and the fragile, almost broken way she asked. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a $100 bill, and dropped it into the box. The girl's eyes widened, pure shock flashing across her face. This is too much," she whispered, her voice trembling. Keanu gave her a small, kind smile. "No, it's just enough. You sang beautifully." Her cheeks flushed, and she glanced down, mumbling a soft thank you before moving on to the next table. But something gnawed at Keanu's mind. The desperation in her voice, the weight in her song. There was more to her story than just a need for money. He watched as she continued around the room, carefully counting each bill with a faint smile. There was pride in the way she moved, a determination to carry a burden far heavier than herself. Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeper behind that performance, something he needed to understand. As the waiter returned with his meal, Keanu couldn't help but ask, "Who is she?" The waiter glanced back at the girl, a soft sigh escaping his lips. "That's Anna. She sings here most nights, trying to raise money for her grandfather's surgery. Tough kid. Doesn't say much, but when she sings, it's like she's pouring her soul out." Keanu's gaze drifted back to Anna as she moved through the tables, offering shy smiles to those who gave. He couldn't help but feel a familiar ache, one that reminded him of battles fought and lost, of holding on when everything seemed to crumble. He took a deep breath, knowing one thing for sure. He wasn't leaving without knowing more about her story. The evening wore on, but Keanu couldn't get Anna out of his mind. He kept replaying her song, the way her voice trembled with unspoken pain, and the way her eyes seemed far older than her years. It wasn't just the music, it was the story behind it that gripped him. The girl was carrying something heavy, and Keanu couldn't just walk away from it. He watched as Anna finally stopped at the last table, offering the donation box with a hesitant smile. The couple barely looked at her, tossing a few coins into the box before resuming their conversation. Anna gave a small, polite nod and moved back toward the stage to put the box down, her shoulders slumping just a little. Keanu couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. $100 wouldn't change her life, but it was all he could do at that moment without overwhelming her. When the waiter returned to clear his table, Keanu gestured for him to lean in. "Does she always sing here?" he asked softly. The waiter nodded, wiping his hands on his apron. "Most nights, yeah. Her grandfather's real sick. Needs surgery, but they don't have insurance. She's been trying to raise money on her own. Comes in, sings her heart out, and collects whatever people are willing to give. Sometimes it's good. Most times, not so much." Keanu's jaw clenched. The image of that small, determined girl fighting against impossible odds weighed on his chest. "Where's her family?" he asked. The waiter hesitated, glancing at Anna, who was wiping down the stage with a rag. "It's just her and her grandfather now. He used to be a woodworker, did a lot of restorations around town, but ever since he fell sick, they've been barely scraping by. Proud man, though, refuses charity. So Anna does what she can." Keanu felt a flicker of anger, not at the old man, but at the unfairness of it all. A child shouldn't have to shoulder that kind of burden. As he watched Anna move quietly around the room, he made a decision. He couldn't just walk out of there pretending he hadn't seen what he did. When Anna came back to collect the microphone, Keanu caught her attention with a soft, "Hey." She looked up, surprised that he was still there. "Yes, sir." He gave her a reassuring smile. "You sing beautifully. Has anyone told you that?" She gave a small shrug, almost like she didn't believe it herself. "Sometimes. But most people don't really listen. They just give money and move on." Keanu nodded, understanding the bitterness behind her words. "You shouldn't be doing this alone," he said gently. "Doesn't anyone help you?" Her expression tightened, and she glanced away, clearly uncomfortable. "Grandpa doesn't like charity," she whispered. "He thinks it's shameful. So I sing. It's the only way I can do something without making him feel bad." Keanu's heart twisted painfully. He understood pride. He'd seen it destroy lives. But seeing a young girl trying to preserve her grandfather's dignity while fighting to keep him alive was something else entirely. Before he could say more, Anna hesitated and spoke again, almost as if she needed to justify herself. "I know it's not much. Sometimes I think, maybe I'm just wasting my time. But I can't just sit and do nothing. If I don't try, who will?" Keanu gave her a soft, understanding look. "You're not wasting your time," he said firmly. "And you're not alone." Her eyes widened slightly, like she hadn't expected those words. Keanu reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small notepad, scribbling something down. He tore off the page and handed it to her. "If you ever need anything, just call this number," he said. "No pressure. Just know that you have someone who's willing to help." Anna looked at the note, confusion and gratitude mixing on her face. "Why are you being so nice to me?" Keanu hesitated, his gaze softening. "Because sometimes people just need a little help, and that's okay. You're stronger than most people I know." She looked at him like she wanted to believe him, but wasn't sure if it was safe to. Before she could say anything more, the restaurant door swung open, and a few loud customers walked in, shattering the quiet. Anna tucked the note into her pocket and gave Keanu one last look before disappearing into the back room. Keanu sat there for a long moment, lost in thought. Something about her resilience struck a chord deep within him, reminding him of his own struggles and the people who had helped him when he couldn't see a way out. He couldn't just walk away from this. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through his contacts until he found the number he was looking for. After a brief hesitation, he pressed call. "Hey," he said quietly when the voice on the other end picked up. "I need a favor. It's important." He didn't know exactly what he was going to do yet, but one thing was clear. He wasn't going to let Anna fight this battle alone. The next morning, Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that something needed to be done. Something bigger than just offering money. He wasn't the kind of man to throw cash at a problem and walk away. He wanted to make a real difference. As he sat at his hotel room's small balcony, sipping his morning coffee, he thought about the girl's voice, the way it gripped him and wouldn't let go. He pulled out his phone again and dialed a familiar number. After a few rings, a deep, cheerful voice answered. "Keanu, man, it's been a while. What's up?" Keanu smiled faintly. "Hey, Greg, I need your help with something unusual." Greg was one of his old friends from the music industry, a guy who managed a lot of local events and had connections with venue owners. If anyone could pull off what he was planning, it was Greg. "Shoot," Greg replied, curious. "There's a girl," Keanu began, pausing to gather his thoughts. "She sings at a small restaurant to raise money for her grandfather's surgery. She's incredible, but no one's paying attention. I want to do something for her. Give her a stage where people actually listen." There was a brief silence on the other end. "You mean like a performance? A real one?" "Exactly," Keanu replied. "Somewhere decent, nothing too flashy, but enough to make her feel special. Think you can arrange that?" Greg chuckled. "Are you kidding? For you? Done. There's an old theater downtown, the Orpheum. Beautiful place, just got renovated. I can make a few calls and get it set up for tomorrow night. Low-key, no press, just an authentic night of music." Keanu breathed a sigh of relief. "Perfect. Just one thing. Don't tell anyone it's for me. I want it to be her moment." "You got it. I'll send you the details later," Greg promised before hanging up. With a plan in motion, Keanu felt a sense of purpose. But there was one more thing to take care of. He needed to talk to Anna's grandfather. He couldn't go ahead without knowing how the old man felt about it. A little digging led him to a small apartment building on the outskirts of town. It was worn down, but still standing strong, much like the man he was about to meet. Keanu took a deep breath and knocked on the door. After a few moments, it creaked open, revealing a frail but stern-looking man. His eyes were sharp, full of pride and a hint of suspicion. "Yes?" the man grunted. Keanu gave him a warm, respectful smile. "Hi, sir. My name's Keanu. I met your granddaughter last night at the restaurant." The old man's expression softened just a little, but he still looked guarded. "If you're here to pity us, save it. We don't need charity." Keanu shook his head. "I'm not here for that. I just wanted to tell you that she has an incredible gift. The way she sings, it's special. It moved everyone in that place." The old man's shoulders relaxed, and he glanced away as if hiding his emotions. "She's just a kid. She shouldn't have to do all this." "That's true," Keanu agreed gently. "But she's doing it because she loves you, because she wants to fight for you." The man sighed, rubbing his tired hands together. I never wanted her to bear this burden. I should be the one protecting her, not the other way around." Keanu nodded, understanding the guilt eating away at him. Maybe she doesn't see it as a burden. Maybe she sees it as a chance to fight for the one person who's always fought for her. But it doesn't have to be this way. There's another option. The old man looked up, curiosity mixed with apprehension. "What do you mean?" Keanu hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I want to give her a chance to sing on a real stage. Not just for money, but to show the world what she can do. It might help more than just her spirit. It could change things for both of you." The old man looked doubtful, but a spark of hope flickered in his eyes. "She'd never do it if she knew it was charity, and neither would I." "It's not charity," Keanu assured him. "It's recognition. It's giving her a chance to be heard. She's not just some kid singing for coins. She's an artist, and people deserve to hear her. Let me make that happen." The old man didn't answer right away. He looked down at his worn hands, the veins visible under his thin skin. "You really think people would listen to her?" Keanu smiled softly. "I know they will." Finally, the old man gave a small nod, though he still looked uneasy. "If it's really for her, and not a handout, then okay. But if it makes her feel small, I'll never forgive myself." "It won't," Keanu promised. "She deserves this." As he walked away from the apartment, Keanu felt a surge of determination. This wasn't just about giving Anna a night to remember. It was about giving her the confidence to stand tall and fight back against the odds. Tomorrow night, everything would change. The next evening, the Orpheum Theater stood like a timeless monument amid the bustling streets of New Orleans. Its grand, arched windows reflected the golden glow of the setting sun, while the faint hum of excitement lingered in the air. Greg had worked his magic. No press, no media, just word of mouth and a few local music lovers curious to hear something special. Keanu arrived early, dressed simply, and blending in with the crew setting up the stage. He made sure everything was perfect. The lighting soft but focused, the sound system crisp and clear. The seats were gradually filling up with locals, families, and a few familiar faces from the music scene who had caught wind of the event. Keanu kept to the shadows, not wanting to draw attention to himself. Anna had no idea what was waiting for her. She thought it was just another night at the restaurant. Keanu had arranged for Greg to pick her up, pretending it was just a small gig to help raise money. When she arrived at the theater, her eyes widened, taking in the grand architecture and the warm, inviting glow inside. Greg greeted her with a welcoming smile. "You must be Anna." "I'm Greg, Keanu's friend." Her eyes flickered with confusion. "Keanu?" Greg chuckled. "You'll see. Come on, let's get you ready." He led her backstage, where a simple but elegant dress waited for her. Nothing too fancy, just enough to make her feel special. Anna hesitated, her fingers brushing the fabric nervously. Greg gave her an encouraging nod. "You've got this. Just sing like you always do." Meanwhile, Keanu paced quietly at the side of the stage, keeping an eye on the growing crowd. He knew she would be nervous, but he also knew that once she started singing, her heart would take over. That was the magic he had seen in her the first time. When Anna finally stepped out from the dressing room, her usual worn-out clothes replaced with the simple, yet beautiful dress, she looked almost unrecognizable. Keanu couldn't help but smile when he saw her. She looked hesitant, almost fearful, but there was a light in her eyes, a glimmer of hope fighting through the doubt. As she approached, Keanu gave her a reassuring nod. "You look great." Anna managed a weak smile, her hands nervously clutching the microphone. I don't know if I can do this. It's too much." Keanu knelt down to her level, his voice calm and gentle. "Listen to me. You've been doing this every night, singing your heart out with nothing but hope. This is the same, just a different place. No one here expects anything from you. Just be yourself." Her breathing steadied a little, but fear still lingered in her eyes. What if I mess up? Keanu smiled softly. Then you mess up. And that's okay. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. Just let them feel what you feel. That's what makes you special. Anna took a shaky breath, glancing past him to the stage where the soft glow of the spotlight waited for her. Before she could second-guess herself, Keanu gently guided her forward, whispering, "You're stronger than you think." The room fell silent as Anna stepped into the spotlight, the grand theater stretching out before her like an endless sea of curious faces. She swallowed hard, her hands trembling as she adjusted the microphone. Keanu gave her a supportive nod from the side, his presence grounding her nerves. She hesitated for a moment, her gaze drifting to the front row where her grandfather sat, his worn hands gripping the armrest as he watched with cautious pride. Seeing him there brought a new wave of determination. This wasn't just for her, it was for him, for everything he had given up to raise her. Taking a deep breath, Anna closed her eyes, and the first note slipped from her lips, soft, unsure, but filled with raw emotion. As the melody grew stronger, her voice became more confident, pouring out every bit of pain, hope, and love she had been carrying. It was as if the theater itself held its breath, wrapped in the haunting beauty of her song. Keanu couldn't help but feel his heart swell as he watched the transformation happen right before his eyes. The shy, hesitant girl was gone, replaced by a passionate artist laying bare her soul for everyone to see. The crowd sat motionless, captivated by the honesty in her voice and the story it told without needing words. When the song ended, there was a brief, almost stunned silence before the audience erupted into applause. Genuine, thunderous applause that shook the walls. Anna's eyes widened, and for a moment, she just stood there, frozen in disbelief. Then, slowly, a shy smile broke through, her cheeks flushed with a mix of pride and relief. From the side of the stage, Keanu gave her a thumbs up, his heart pounding with pride. He knew what this meant for her, the realization that her voice mattered, that she wasn't just fighting alone. Anna gave a small bow, her hands still shaking as she wiped a tear from her cheek. As she stepped off the stage, Keanu met her halfway, his expression soft and encouraging. "You did it," he said quietly. Anna looked up at him, her voice barely above a whisper. They really listened." Keanu smiled. "They did. Because you made them feel something real. You did that." For the first time in a long while, Anna looked like a kid again, relieved, happy, and overwhelmed all at once. Her grandfather approached, his eyes glistening with pride. He pulled her into a hug, whispering something only she could hear. Anna just held on to him, not wanting the moment to end. Keanu stepped back, giving them space, but his heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. He didn't need the spotlight tonight. It was Anna's stage, and she had owned it. But something told him this was just the beginning. As the applause finally faded, Anna and her grandfather remained in a tight embrace, both overwhelmed by the unexpected support. Keanu watched them with a sense of satisfaction, knowing that tonight had been more than just a performance. It had been a turning point. Greg approached from the side, giving Keanu a quick nod. "Man, you were right. That girl's got something special. The crowd loved her." Keanu smiled faintly. "Yeah, she just needed someone to believe in her." But as Anna and her grandfather shared their quiet moment, something unexpected happened. One of the local radio hosts in the audience approached Greg, clearly excited. "Who's the girl?" he asked. "That voice. It's unreal. We need to get her on air. People need to hear this." Greg glanced at Keanu, who gave a slight nod, silently approving. "I'll talk to her," Greg replied. "Let's keep it low-key for now. No press, just music." Keanu didn't want to overwhelm Anna, especially after such a big night. He approached her carefully, not wanting to intrude on her moment with her grandfather. When she noticed him, her face lit up with a smile that looked freer than he'd ever seen. "Keanu!" she called out, her voice more confident now. "Did you see? They actually liked it." Keanu gave a soft chuckle. "Liked it? They loved it. You did something amazing out there." Her grandfather looked at him. His weathered face softened with gratitude. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I never thought I'd see her like this. So alive." Keanu gave a gentle nod. "She deserved it. You both did." Just as Anna was about to say something, a familiar face appeared at the entrance. One of the city's most renowned local musicians, Caleb Hart, known for his soulful performances and his strong connection to the community. He had heard about the impromptu performance through word of mouth and decided to check it out himself. Caleb approached Keanu, offering a handshake. "Heard there was something special happening here tonight. Didn't know I'd be walking into a miracle." Keanu smiled humbly. "It wasn't me. It was her." He gestured toward Anna, who looked awestruck to be in the presence of a musical legend. Caleb knelt down to Anna's level, giving her a warm smile. "You've got one hell of a voice, kid. Raw, real. It hits right in the soul. I'd love to hear more of it." Anna's cheeks flushed with embarrassment and pride. I just sing because it's all I know how to do." Caleb chuckled softly. "Well, you do it better than most professionals I know. Listen, I'm performing at the Crescent City Music Hall next week. How about you come up and sing a song with me?" Anna's eyes widened in shock, her hands covering her mouth. What? With you? On stage?" Her grandfather put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It's a chance, Anna. You should take it." Keanu smiled, seeing the disbelief on her face. "You've already faced the hardest crowd tonight. You can do this." Caleb grinned. "And if it helps, I'll be right there with you. You've got talent, kid. Don't hide it." Anna hesitated, then slowly nodded, her heart pounding. I'd love to." As they continued talking, Keanu couldn't help but feel a sense of pride swelling in his chest, not just because Anna had found her confidence, but because she was getting the recognition she deserved without feeling like a charity case. It was organic, real, and exactly what she needed. Later that night, when most of the crowd had dispersed and the theater was quiet once more, Anna approached Keanu one last time before leaving. She looked up at him with grateful eyes, clutching the donation box that now felt heavier than ever. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "I was so scared. But you made me feel like I could do it." Keanu knelt down to her level, giving her a gentle smile. "You didn't need me to do it. It was all you. You just needed to believe it. Don't ever forget that." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she hugged him tightly, surprising him with the sudden gesture. Keanu's arms wrapped around her gently, and he couldn't help but feel a familiar warmth in his chest, the kind that reminded him why helping others meant so much. As Anna and her grandfather walked out of the theater, their silhouettes framed by the streetlights, Keanu remained behind, his heart feeling lighter than it had in a long time. He knew this wasn't just about one performance or one night. It was about giving hope where it was nearly lost. And for the first time in a while, Keanu felt like he had truly made a difference. Not just in Anna's life, but in his own as well. A week had passed since that unforgettable night at the Orpheum Theater, and word of Anna's performance had spread like wildfire throughout the city. People were talking about the girl with the haunting voice, who sang her heart out and moved everyone to tears. Even local newspapers picked up the story, calling her the Angel of Orpheum. Keanu couldn't help but smile every time he saw one of those articles. Tonight was the big night at Crescent City Music Hall, where Anna would perform alongside Caleb Hart. Keanu arrived early, slipping in through the backstage door to avoid attention. The place was buzzing with excitement, and he could feel the energy building up even before the doors opened. He found Anna backstage, nervously pacing with her hands clenched together. She was dressed in a simple white dress, her hair pulled back neatly, but her eyes were wide with anxiety. Her grandfather sat nearby, giving her reassuring nods, but clearly feeling the nerves himself. Keanu approached her with a soft smile. "Hey, superstar!" She spun around, her face lighting up with both relief and fear. "Keanu, I don't think I can do this. It's too big. Everyone's expecting so much." He placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You've already done the hardest part. You sang your heart out in front of strangers and made them feel something real. Tonight's no different. Just remember why you're doing this, because your voice deserves to be heard." She bit her lip, fighting back tears. "But what if I mess up? What if I let everyone down?" Keanu knelt down to look her in the eyes, his voice calm and steady. "It's not about perfection. It's about heart. You have that in every note you sing. Just be yourself, and I promise, they'll love you." Before Anna could respond, Caleb walked over, giving Keanu a grateful nod. "Glad you're here." She's been about to pass out from nerves. Keanu grinned. "She'll be fine. She just needs to remember that she's not alone up there." Caleb gave Anna an encouraging pat on the back. "We'll start with one of my songs, and then you come in on the second verse, okay? Just follow my lead." Anna nodded shakily, taking a deep breath. "Okay, I'll try." The crowd outside was already chanting Caleb's name, eager for the show to begin. As the lights dimmed, Caleb stepped onto the stage, greeted by a roaring wave of applause. He picked up his guitar and started playing a soft, soulful melody, his voice flowing through the hall with effortless grace. Anna peeked from the side, her heart thundering in her chest. Keanu leaned down to her level and whispered, "Just breathe. One note at a time." When Caleb signaled her cue, Anna hesitated for just a moment before stepping onto the stage. The spotlight hit her, and for a heartbeat, it felt like the whole world paused. Caleb gave her a reassuring nod, and she took a deep breath, letting the music guide her. Her voice started soft, almost trembling, but as the melody wrapped around her, she found her confidence, her voice soaring higher with each line. The audience fell silent, captivated by the raw, unfiltered emotion that poured from her heart. Caleb smiled, blending his voice with hers, creating a harmony that sent chills down spines. Keanu watched from the shadows, his chest swelling with pride. This wasn't just a performance. It was a victory over doubt, fear, and the weight of helplessness. Anna was shining, not because someone gave her a chance, but because she took it and made it her own. As the song reached its peak, the audience erupted into applause, cheering and whistling as Anna's voice faded. She stood there, wide-eyed and overwhelmed, as the realization of what just happened washed over her. Caleb pulled her into a side hug, laughing warmly. "That's how it's done!" he shouted, and the crowd cheered even louder. Tears glistened in Anna's eyes as she looked out at the sea of smiling faces. Her grandfather, sitting near the front row, wiped his own tears, his chest swelling with pride. For the first time in so long, Anna didn't feel like just a kid struggling to survive. She felt like an artist, like someone who mattered. After the show, Caleb invited her back on stage for an encore, and this time, Anna sang with pure joy. No fear, no hesitation, just the love of music filling the hall. Keanu stayed in the shadows, not wanting to take any of her moment. This was her victory, and he was just grateful to have been a part of it. As the night wound down, Anna rushed backstage, finding Keanu waiting for her with a proud smile. She didn't say anything, just threw her arms around him, holding on tight. Keanu gently hugged her back, patting her shoulder. "You did it," he whispered. She pulled back, wiping her eyes and grinning. "I couldn't have done it without you." Keanu shook his head. "You did it because you believed in yourself. I just reminded you of what you already had." Just then, Caleb approached, holding his phone with a wide grin. "Keanu, you're gonna want to see this." Someone recorded the performance and posted it online. "It's blowing up. People are calling her the next big star." Anna's eyes widened in shock. "What? Really?" Caleb chuckled. "Looks like you just became New Orleans' newest sensation." Keanu looked at Anna, his heart swelling with pride. "Told you, you're stronger than you think." As they left the music hall that night, Anna couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she was fighting the world alone. She had found her voice, and the world had finally listened. Keanu stayed behind a moment longer, watching her walk away with her grandfather. He knew that she still had battles to fight, but now she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. And that was all he had ever wanted for her.